Hey, it's Mark Zimmerman. I'm so glad that you clicked on this video. Today I'm going to go ahead and do a carryover from a video that I shot before that you can actually find on this channel. But I'm going to use a similar story to illustrate a concept or a thought or something that I think everyone, especially new investors, should be aware of. But first, let me set the stage a little bit. Let's talk about this other video that you can find on here as well about my first house I ever bought. Hopefully you've seen it. If not, I'll give you a quick refresher. I basically talked about this guy right here all the way back in 2002, much younger version of myself. And I talked about the first house that guy, me, ever bought as a We Buy Ugly Houses franchisee fresh out of the box. Actually, I bought it while I was still in training, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. But anyway, let me give you some metrics on this house that I first bought, because there is a story behind this that goes above and beyond flip versus hold and appreciation and cash flow. There's a more core story that I want to talk about. But first, let's talk about the property, all right? So, little refresher on this one. This is the one that I ended up selling as is, and I made $25,000, almost $26,000 in. I don't know, I contracted it in 3 weeks and I closed, I think, in 7 or 8 weeks. Anyway, but if I would have held it for 20 years and sold it based on the metrics that I gave you in the last video, I would have ended up cash flowing plus depreciation when I sold it based on what it actually sold for, believe it or not. 20 years later, I would have made about $272,000 in cash flow and also profit in the appreciation gain. And that's doing the deal with no money down for the short-term purchase or the long-term hold note either. So kind of cool. We talked about my crazy Texas Tech math, even though it's not great all the time. Texas Tech math does tell you that $272,000 is much better than $25,000. But anyway, that's a little bit refresher on the house. Where I want to go with this house is this, or with this story is this. Have you ever heard of the story staying out of somebody else's pockets? You know, look at the lady putting on the birds and the duck's grabbing the money out of her purse. Anyway, this is a tip that I think everybody should be aware of or should listen to, especially new investors. Man, when you're a new investor, it's really hard to stay out of everybody else's pockets. It's hard not to worry or think or get frustrated about what other people are making on a deal that maybe they're involved in. So I'm going to walk you through what actually happened to me on this house that I talked about in the last video in terms of why you should stay out of other people's pockets. But it's a good story. So hopefully it entertains you and you learn a little something too as well. So same house we're going to talk about, the first house I ever bought back in 2002 as a brand new We Buy Ugly Houses franchisee. This is a true story, but I will avoid naming names to protect the innocent and not so innocent, okay? So this is the house. Let me give you some metrics again. A refresher from the video that is also on this channel that you can watch. The house was built in 1979 when I bought it in 2002, so it was relatively new. It was a 4-bedroom home, 2.5 bath. It was almost on a full acre, which is great. It was up in Humble, Texas, outside of Houston. Great area. It's a 2-story house, brick on a slab. Great purchase, right? And when I bought the house, it had an ARV, which everybody knows is after repaired value, a big number you should know if you're ever thinking about buying, fixing up, and selling houses or even holding houses. ARV, what's the ARV? What's the after repaired value? In this case, back in 2002, the after repaired value was $160,000 based on recent comps that I ran in the neighborhood. It needed about $20,000 in repairs just to get it up into the condition I needed to get it to that after repaired value price of $160,000. And believe it or not, I purchased this house for $88,000. I think it worked out to be about 68% was my loan to after repaired value number, which is pretty good. That includes the repairs. 68%, not a bad number. So that's a refresher on the house. So what you didn't know was that I actually bought this house from another We Buy Ugly Houses franchise. It shall remain unnamed. I'm still great friends with them. They're great folks. Wonderful. But I bought it while I was still in training. In fact, I was on the last day of training on that Friday up at the franchisor's office up in Dallas after I think a week and a half of training. And I got this opportunity to swoop in and basically save a deal for my franchisee brethren. The problem was they had it actually contracted to sell for $88,000 to another office, and that office backed out for whatever reason. And so, throwing all caution to the wind, and I certainly don't recommend this, I bought the house as is while in Dallas, based just on the comps that my compadre had given me, along with the repair funds or repair estimate that they thought the house would need to get that to $160,000 value, which had been verified by the franchisor, so that's good. But buying my first house sight unseen, kind of crazy. As you know, in the other video that I shot, though, I did do pretty well on it. As you saw earlier here, I made almost $26,000 in 7-8 weeks and didn't have to rehab it or anything. So I did well. But anyway, I just want to point out that I actually bought the house while I was still in training, the first house I ever bought. Now, are you familiar with the term double close? Do you know what it means to say, oh, I think we're going to double close, or hey, title company, can y'all double close this deal? Well, here's the answer for that. The reason most of the time why investors double close when they're selling a property is when you do a double close, meaning you do one closing for when you purchase the property from the person that's selling it to you, and you do a completely separate closing when you're selling it to the person that's buying it from you, right? Those two people never meet. The settlement statements aren't combined. And then guess what? The person that you're buying it from and the person that you're selling it to especially doesn't see how much money you sold it to when you sold it to the next person in line, which in this case was me. So that's always a big red flag. Should be a red flag, but it should tell you that somebody wants to double close and they're willing to pay a second title fee, right? And closing costs. It's minimal, but you still got to pay them to do a double close. They're probably shielding how much they made when they are going to do this deal with you. So in this instance, it was a double close. I didn't know everything I just told you when this happened. I just oh, this is how you do it. You go in and it's a double close, whatever. So the interesting part about this was I think the next business day after we closed, because I did this on a Friday, on Monday, we opened up our brand new We Buy Ugly Houses franchise in the Woodlands, Texas. First day open, our fax machine goes off. Yes, this is back in the dinosaur days, right? This was 2002. Everybody was using faxes. My fax machine goes off. And interestingly enough, the title company that I closed at, double closed, right? They accidentally sent me the closing statement for the first closing, which would have been my counterpart, their closing when they purchased the property, not the closing of when they were selling it to me, but the closing of when they purchased the property. So they accidentally sold it to me or faxed it to me by mistake, their closing documents. So here we go. Here's the fun part. Here's the moral of the story. Guess how much the seller, my We Buy Ugly Houses peer, guess how much they contracted the house for? And remember, they never really owned the house because the day that they bought it from the person that they bought it from, an hour later in a double close, they sold it to me. So they really only technically owned the property for like an hour. So guess how much they made on that property? The property that I guess what I should say was guess how much they contracted the house for to buy it on the property that I paid $88,000 for to get them out of a bind because their buyer had fallen through and they were going to lose the deal if I didn't help them out and close. Are you ready? Ready for the drum roll? What did they pay for the house? The house that I paid $88,000 for. Bum. $55,000. So they purchased the house for $55,000, never owned it, and they sold it to me for $88,000 and really made it like I was doing them a favor and getting them out of a jam, which I was because they were going to lose the deal completely if they didn't close on that Friday. What do you think my reaction was? Yeah, $33,000 profit, never owned the property, and I was doing them a deal on this thing? Well, I can tell you my reaction was that little kid right there to start out with. I was like, I can't believe that they made $33,000. They never owned the property. I was helping them out, and I bought it as is, or I bought it unseen, sight unseen, just trust their numbers because I was trying to help them out. Well, what should my reaction should have been? Well, remember that I actually contracted that house to sell as is in 3 weeks. I spent $800 to fix it up. And I was actually also excited and willing to do the deal before I knew what they paid for it, right? The numbers worked for me. $160,000 after repaired value, $20,000 in repairs, and I'm paying $88,000 for it. 68% loan to after repaired value. I was happy. And then look, I did all right. I made $25,720 in like 7-8 weeks, right? Got it contracted in 3 weeks. It took us another 30-40 days to close. But hey, I made $25,000, $26,000 almost. I did all right. So the reason why I'm sharing this story with you is this. There's a moral here, right? The moral is that if you're not happy, with the deal and the numbers and then they work, then just don't do the deal. Walk away. I walk away from a ton of opportunities because the numbers don't work, or I'm just not happy with the way the deal is being structured. However, if you're happy with the deal, like I was when I was first offered the opportunity to buy this house, right, and help my wee bugly house's brethren out, then stay out of other people's pockets, right? Don't worry about how much they're making. Run your own race and just focus on what you're going to make. And if you do that, your life will be a lot less stressful. You'll be a lot happier, and you're going to be okay. So that's what I wanted to share. I hope that was a benefit of your time. Stay out of other people's pockets. Run your own race, and you'll do just fine. Anyway, as always, I wish you well on your investment journey. And my name is Mark Zimmerman, and I'm out. Thanks for watching, everyone. We really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe below.